How do you fit a lot of big events into a single book without sacrificing anything else? My name is Gina. I'm an author, editor, publishing professional. I help you make your writing. I think the unspoken question underneath here is without going over the word count that you were sort of expected to be within. And now I often talk about like 100,000 words for a debut author. And in some genres, you can like go up to maybe like 130, 140,000 as a debut author. And again, there are going to be exceptions to this. This is a guideline, not a rule. But if we are trying to stay under those expected word counts, how do you have a book that feels properly paced so it's not frenetic and it's not kind of all over the place, but it has tons of events in it and we have great depth of character and we have awesome setting and we have beautiful language? You don't. You don't have all of those things. You're going to have to sacrifice something. And while I do not know your specific book, I do not know your specific strengths or what it is that you are hoping to have on the page, I can say that when brand new writers come to me for a developmental edit, this is the most common problem that I see is they just have way too many things happening on the page. The first thing that I do is I open up a beat sheet, and that is where I am just tracking all of the plot points to see whether or not the inciting incident is happening at the right point, that the pinch points are happening around the time where we expect them to happen, that the darkest moment is happening. We are giving enough space at the end for the denouement for us to breathe and sort of relax into the new normal. And I have this beat sheet that has a few boxes sort of set up for each one of those plot points. And so the inciting incident has, 2 scenes and 2 sequels. So we're looking at like 4 scenes basically that end up making up what constitutes the inciting incident. And again, these are all guidelines. This is an art, not a science. And so I expect that sometimes I'm going to delete some of those boxes or sometimes going to expand a little bit. And there's room to grow and it can be flexible in here. But when I have a brand new author who is like, I don't really know, like I'm struggling, I don't know what to do with my plot, I have to add so many boxes. This beat sheet will go from being like 24 lines long to suddenly being like 60, 70 lines long. They just have so many scenes, so many action points, so many things happening on the page. And instead of making it feel fast paced, it actually makes the entire thing feel really bogged down and really sluggish because you have a new scene starting like every 2 pages, plural. But so you have a new scene starting over constantly. You're always like starting and stopping and starting and stopping and starting and stopping. Where something to feel fast paced actually feels like you can't quite delineate between one scene and the next because it just moves so quickly and it feels so fluid. And when people are putting tons of events on the page, it feels very choppy and you can't quite get into a groove. You never get that like page turning feel and it feels very sluggish and very bogged down. And so I'm going to go back to one of my favorite pieces of advice when we are talking about plotting out a novel is that every scene should be doing more than one thing. If you have a scene here that is meant to show them getting from point A to point B, and then you have a scene where they have arrived at point B and now they're going to have the important conversation that they need to have, and then they're going to wake up the next morning and they're going to have a fight to demonstrate that they're not getting along very well, and it's going to show us some character bits, and then they're going to try to test out her magic and they're going to learn how to use this. So now you've gotten 4 scenes that all should be one scene. We should have one scene that shows them traveling and fighting and arguing about her learning how to use her magic. So we get character stuff wrapped up in setting, wrapped up in a plot point while they are functionally moving from point A to point B. That should be one scene. This should not be 4 individual scenes. That's how you're going to eliminate that really choppy feeling on the page. And that is also how you are going to cut down on some of those events that are happening. Now I know this commenter specifically said big events, so I would tell you the same thing. How many of them are actually big events? How many of them really need to be in this book? How many of them can be combined into other things, into one big action sequence where there's a lot of things kind of happening? That can get overwhelming too, so be careful here. But the bottom line is you can't fit all of that into a finite number of words. If you are trying to make a specific word count, you are going to have to make sure that you are using economy of language and that you are being very concise and very precise as you are moving through this, and you're not going to be able to have 47 big set piece scenes throughout the entire novel. You're going to have to make some cuts.